Hello and welcome to another episode of Gaming Dad, and you currently join me in my dining room. Yes, this is the location where the PC will end up. Let's go over a few of the items, how I came to this decision in front of you. So when you look at videos online, particularly on YouTube when it comes to PC builds, they talk a lot about the aesthetics. They talk a lot about the price. They talk a lot about what you need for this price bracket. What can you get for £1,000 PC? What can you get for a £3,000 PC? And oh my god, if you want the biggest and the best, you need this amount of money. Which is all well and good, and budget does come into it. But there's other factors you have to take into consideration too. Me, particularly being a dad, I've got to take into account other items. So, my 4 areas, my design requirements when I came up with this build were as follows. 1, budget. Yes, I had to keep the price as low as reasonably practical. So some of the items are clearly premium products. Others are not. So I've skimped on some areas but kept the money in certain places. So budget is key. My environment, as I said, I'm in the dining room. I don't have a PC, I don't have an office. So space is of a premium, and not just space, can it be put away quickly? I mean, we want to eat at this table. 3rd, what was the requirement? What do I need it to do? Good enough. Is it good enough? The requirement for it. And that is, I needed to do light video editing, light photography work, office work, as well as playing games at a reasonable value. Now the screen is not actually in shot, and I'll cover the screen and peripherals in a separate video. But suffice to say, this system is only driving a 24-inch monitor. It's not a 33-inch Behemoth or a 52-inch or a 65-inch, the recent one that's come out from Asus. It's not going to cover that. It will never power that. But is it good enough to power a 24-inch monitor? And yes, it is. So let's go through some of the components we have here. So for starters, one of the most important products, the motherboard. This is an Aorus B450 Pro Wi-Fi motherboard. It's got Wi-Fi installed. It's on the ITX size, so it's very, very small. And one area where I didn't skimp on, this came in, this was paid at almost full back. It was on a deal. The second item, which was clearly not paid for, was clearly not a non-premium item, power supply. This has got to last, so I've always used EVGA power supplies, and this one is no different. This is the G3, so it's a relatively small ATX sized PSU supply. We also have an M2 SSD there, NV at 3, very quick storage, but also went for that rather than an SSD because it cuts down cables. This can have one of them installed, so there's where my storage is. And it doesn't need to have 2, 3, 4 terabytes of storage. So there's no need to go for a big SSD or a external hard drive, etc., or a mechanical hard drive, should I say. So yes, I did pay a bit more money, but I'm gained in the amount of cables I'll need to put in the case. Now the case is come from eBay, and I have to admit is a bit battered. When you come up getting a close-up shot, you'll definitely see that. This is the Cooler Master 120 Elite ITX case. It's a little bit battered and a little bit old. I think it came out in 2012. It might be my Achilles heel when we actually show it to you. Next item, CPU. This is not what you see. This is a Ryzen 5 1600, and it's one of the very first generations. It just came in that box, so I bought it second hand on eBay. Moving swiftly on, we're on to the graphics card, which unfortunately due to the lighting in this room is not shown. But this is the EVGA 1050 Ti and the small former fact, it's not a full-length card, this one, but it's good enough for my needs. It's 4 gig. It will power a 24-inch monitor quite happily, and that's all I need to do. And plus, it gives me an upgrade route, hopefully with this case, because this case can take longer graphics cards, and my graphics card in my other PC is a 1070 Ti. So I've got an upgrade path there once I can replace the 1070 Ti. The other items here, the Nocturne fan. This was a purchase which I had to make rather than want to make. So I did do a test to try and build the PC in here, but with the combination of this power supply being a non-small form factor, I thought I could get away with the stock cooler. Unfortunately, when I did try and do a dry install in this case, that was rammed up against the PSU, so I had to fork out extra for a very low form Nocturne air chiller, and I must admit I'm actually quite glad I did in the end, because that will definitely last me. And because of the market at the time, I had to also purchase the upgrade kit, the mounting kit for an AM4. So why have I picked a Ryzen? Well, mainly because I like the Ryzen series. I think it's been very solid. I have never had any issues with my own PC. But again, that's the other reason. It's good enough for my needs, good enough for the 60 FPS I would like in games. And also, it's an upgrade route. My big PCs. Last thing, RAM. And I was going to go for 8 gigs, but because of the deal, I ended up with 16 gigs at 3000 megahertz. And that'll be more than adequate for this PC and this build. The last thing, which is a peripheral, but it's actually really important for when I describe later, is a gaming mouse mount. Now this is one of the supersized ones. So it's 900 millimeters long by 400 millimeters. And there's a very specific reason why I've included it in this part of the video, mainly because I am working on my kitchen, on our dining table. So I don't want it scratched. And so when I get the mouse out, get the keyboard out, get the screen out, I risk damaging this table. So by buying a super huge mouse mat that will cover at least the keyboard and mouse, I can use a table mat for the screen. That will mean I can not give protection to this table. So there you are, folks. Right, well, I'll do some B-roll or side roll, whatever you want to call it, and look through the build. I'll highlight bits I came across which were difficult. But anyway, let's move on. So it's done, it's complete. The build is done of the second PC. It's taken way too long to do, but that's mainly due to time and availability. You can tell I've changed my shirt since the first part of the video. I do wash now and then. Anyway, I've left the case off, the case off for the time being, mainly because I can go through what went well and what didn't go quite so well and what I would have changed differently. So, first of all, it's here. It's all in with very little problems in terms of cable management, wiring, etc. It looks actually very solid and I'm very pleased with that. So the bits I've bought all fitted in spot on. But that does leave a bit of an elephant in the room in one respect, because this part is completely empty. There's nothing in it. And that's mainly because of developments in M.2 drives and space saving initiatives over the time this case first came out. I think this case came out about 2010, looking at all the reviews and the videos I found. And since then they've done an updated version, 130 version, where you can take the cage, hard drive cage out, which I can't take out. And equally, on top, we have a 5.2 drive, which is no longer really required in today's computing. Although I may use that and put an SD card reader on the front there for my camera stuff. But anyway, that's besides the point. So yeah, I could have had half the size for this. And that's the biggest thing about this case, and the biggest thing I came a problem with this case. Because you can now get some very premium cases where you can fit even full-length cards, graphics cards in, without too much trouble, in a case which is only about 5 to 10 litres in volume. This is about 15 to 20. And just take that into consideration, a full, gaming, very powerful PC in the size of volume of 2 large Coke bottles. 2.5 litre, 2 litres each, about 2.5 of those. That's quite crazy. But if I did go through that case, I'd have to change the power supply now, because this is not an SFX power supply, this is an ATX. This is a large PS2 version, they call it, or a standard size one. It's smaller than a standard size one, granted, but it's still a standard size one. So I would have had to go for replace the power supply if I changed that. Equally, I did have, although I'm very impressed with the air cooler from Noctur, it was a compromise. I thought this theoretically can take a stock cooler, but it would have been slammed up against the top and would have been choked of any airflow, which is never very good. So yeah, those are the areas where I would change probably. Now, would I have got it at the same price point? Debatable, but that's the choices you make at the time of purchase. But anyway, I'm very pleased with it. So I'll be doing a second video where I'll go through some of the peripherals I bought for this computer screen, a monitor, mouse, keyboard, and potentially headphones and ear defenders, etc. Headphone sets. And then, well, I hope you enjoyed it, and maybe a bit of performance, although it won't be that powerful. Okay then, thanks very much for watching everybody, and I'll see you all on the next one. Goodbye.